You walk away from the conversation and your head is spinning. You know you came in with a simple, reasonable point, and somehow you're leaving as the bad guy, apologizing, doubting your own memory, replaying it, trying to figure out where it went wrong. An hour ago you were sure. Now you're not sure of anything. And if this keeps happening with the same person, you've probably started to wonder if the problem is you. It's not that you're too sensitive or bad at arguing or losing your mind. It's that you're playing a game you don't know the rules to against someone who does. Today I want to hand you the rules, because once you can see the pattern clearly, it stops working on you. That's the whole idea of this channel. Name the tactic and it loses its power. You can't defend against something you can't see. So let's make this one visible. First, a careful word because it matters. I'm not going to help you diagnose anyone. Narcissist is a clinical term, and only a professional can actually apply it to a real person. And honestly, the label matters less than you'd think. What matters is the behavior, the specific repeating pattern some people run, whatever you call it. So everywhere I'd say a narcissist, here's someone who does this. We're learning to recognize a pattern, not to pin a diagnosis on your mother-in-law. Here's the pattern, and here's why you keep losing. Someone with this pattern is not actually in the conversation to find the truth. They're in it to protect an image of themselves and to stay in control. So when you bring a real issue, hey, that hurt me, they don't process it as information. They experience it as an attack on the image. And everything that follows is defense of the image by any means available. Twisting your words. Suddenly it's about something you did 3 years ago. Denying something you both clearly remember. Turning your hurt into their grievance so you end up comforting them. You think you're having a disagreement. They're running a playbook. So here's the one thing I want you to carry out of this video. You will never win the argument because you and they are not playing the same game. You're trying to be understood. They're trying to win. And you cannot out-argue someone who isn't bound by the truth. Sit with that, because it's the key that unlocks everything else. Every time you over-explain, produce more evidence, or try just a little harder to make them finally see, you're pouring energy into a machine designed to keep you doing exactly that. The reasonable person assumes that if they can just explain it clearly enough, the other person will understand. Against this pattern, that assumption is the trap. There is no explanation clean enough. That was never the point. So if you can't win, what do? You stop playing their game and start protecting yourself. Here's how. The first defense, and the most important, stop justifying, arguing, defending, and over-explaining. There's a name for that reflex, and people call it JADE, and it's the exact behavior the pattern feeds on. Every justification is a new door for them to attack through, so you shrink the surface. That's my decision. I see it differently. I'm not going to argue about this. Calm, short, and you do not elaborate. It feels almost rude because your whole life you've been taught to explain yourself. But you cannot reason someone out of a position they didn't reason themselves into, and the attempt just hands them more to work with. The second defense, anchor to your own record, because the most disorienting part of this pattern is what it does to your sense of reality. You start to genuinely doubt what happened. So you build an anchor outside their reach. Keep notes for yourself. Notice your own body, the dizziness, the fog, the walking away feeling crazy, because that feeling is data. It's your instincts telling you the ground is tilted, even when your mind is being talked out of it. Your memory is not the problem. Trust the record. The third defense, protect your people. This pattern gets much stronger when you're isolated, because then their version of reality is the only one you hear. Someone running this playbook will often slowly try to put distance between you and the friends and family who'd say, wait, that's not okay. So do the opposite on purpose. Keep your outside relationships alive. Say the confusing things out loud to someone you trust. A single steady friend who reflects reality back to you is the strongest antidote there is to being slowly talked out of your own mind. And the fourth, get emotionally boring. There's a defensive move people call gray rock, becoming unrewarding to provoke. This pattern runs partly on your reaction. Your hurt, your outrage, your scramble to fix it is the fuel. So when you can't leave the interaction, you can starve it. Flat, brief, unbothered. Not Cold War, just no drama to feed on. A person looking for a reaction, handed a gray rock, tends to eventually go looking elsewhere. Now let me be honest with you, because I don't want to hand you a fantasy. None of this changes the other person. That's the hard part to accept. These are not techniques to finally fix them or make them see the light. That's just the jade trap in a new costume. These are ways to protect your clarity, your peace, your reality, while you decide what you want to do. I'm not going to tell you to stay or to go. That's your life. and a real decision made with real support, not a stranger on the internet. And I have to say this plainly because it's the most important line in the video. There's a difference between a difficult pattern and abuse. If someone in your life is controlling where you go, who you see, or your money, if you feel afraid, that has crossed a line no video can help you across, and it is not something to handle with gray rock and clever phrasing. There is real confidential help. In immediate crisis, call or text 988. To talk it through safely, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. Reaching out isn't weakness. It's the single strongest move on this whole list. So the next time your head starts spinning and you feel yourself reaching to explain one more time, stop. Remember, you're not in the same game. Shrink the surface, anchor to your record, keep your people close. You were never going to win the argument, but you can absolutely keep your reality. And that was the thing they were really after all along. And remember, this is education, not therapy, and none of it is a diagnosis of anyone in your life. It's just a way to see the pattern more clearly. Next video, the specific tactic underneath so much of this, gaslighting, how it actually rewires your sense of what's real and the exact way to shut it down. Subscribe so it's there when you need it.